Alright, this is going to be my wonderful 101 breakdown. And just so you know, if you're not familiar, my breakdowns are usually I talk about what I liked and what I didn't like about the game in great detail. This one might be a little shorter than my last couple. Basically, I'm going to go through the pros and the cons. And I always do pros first and then cons second. So first off, the 100-full 101. And this is my opinion on this game and the breakdown, all that shit, whatever. The pros. The first thing is the geek factor. I feel like they really hit on the geek factor in this game. And what I mean by the geek factor is, it's when you play or watch something. You know, I know there's plenty of people who fucking hate this shit, and that's fine. It's just difference of opinion, really. But for me, it's a pro. I really like it when people can do it correctly. There's lots of people who do it poorly. Let me just talk about what it is first before I start fucking getting ahead of myself. Well, the geek factor to me is when you have something that is kind of corny, like the thoughts of it. There's a lot of instances of corniness and things that are kind of like other people I think would view as silly or dumb. Like a good example is a lot of anime. Not a lot of anime, but a lot of like the more popular anime plots and stuff. The only one I can say that I'm familiar with, or the two that I'm familiar with that I like, that kind of have this is Naruto and Attack on Titan. And it's when, you write everything is pretty concisely written, and it's just the way that they handle it is just so much better than other things of similar writing, I guess. Oh, it's so hard to describe what I mean by this. But it's when it's like you kind of know something is corny, but you like it anyway. It's endearing enough that you're like, I really like this. There's plenty of parts in Naruto or Attack on Titan that are just, in a lot of ways, really corny. Or like overdone or something like that. But it's the fact that the rest of the product to me is so good that it overshines this. And not only that, but like you almost like this about those particular things for me. Like I actually like it in Naruto or in Attack on Titan. It causes me to kind of geek out about certain things and be like, oh yeah, that's fucking awesome. That guy's back. Blah, blah, blah. That kind of shit. Where it's like, I get everybody doesn't get like that, and that's cool. I just geek out over certain things. And for me, this game definitely has the geek factor. It's such a weird, simple idea, akin to like a Power Rangers or something like that. But just the way that they do it and handle it is really fucking cool. And I really liked it. I really liked all the cheese and the corn in it, and it was fucking cool. I liked it. I dig Kamiya. I dig his style. He's usually pretty good at this kind of shit. Like, if you've played Devil May Cry or Bayonetta, you know what I mean. Like, you'll see other people who are, oh, I fucking hate that, it's so gay, and blah, blah, blah. That's fine. That's other people. That's not me. I fucking love that kind of shit if it's done well and it's done right. Especially if it's attached to something that is as good as this game. So that. The second is the fucking action, which kind of ties into the geek factor thing. The action is done right. It's very fun to play and to watch. There's lots of shit going on. It's the little cutscenes or whatever that link to gameplay and stuff. Usually I'm not one to take away control, and I honestly really don't like QTEs that much. I've had a love-hate relationship with them ever since fucking Shenmue. It's just, I'm not a big fan of QTEs, but even the ones that are in this, the ones they do, it's a little bit more variety because you're drawing, and that sounds silly, but it is. It doesn't feel as lame. I'm sure if I played like a million games where they do that and you just draw everything, I would hate it again, because I think the main reason I hate QTEs is not that they're a terrible game device, but that they're just so fucking overused, and the market's just so saturated with them these days. But even those parts are really cool, and all the action is just fucking spot on, just crazy over the top, super fucking cool to watch, and it's done right. It's fun to play. Like I said, it's, you're flying around doing crazy shit, and it's I would expect nothing less of Kamiya or Platinum Games, and yeah, I am kind of on their nuts. Not to say they haven't made any games I'm not a huge fan of, but you know, I really dig Platinum Games. I think they're super fucking underrated outside of you know, the video game people who are just obsessed with games like I am. I think that one of the other things in this game is that there are multiple uses for every transformation you get in the game. I think that's a really good gameplay element. Everything you get, you know, like for example, the fist, you can light it on fire, you can twist and manipulate things with it, you can pull stuff with it. Just you know, that's one thing. And every transformation, if I'm not mistaken, has at least 3 unique gameplay mechanics, and that's really cool. That's what I think people need to do, and that's a good way to design a game, in my opinion. And they range from like semi-interesting to really, really cool. Another thing I want to talk about is another pro is the game to me feels just long enough. It's it never wears out its welcome, but at the same time it doesn't feel way too short by any means. It feels totally long enough for the type of game it is, and it's and on top of that, there's just insane amounts of content, which I'll talk about. Oh yeah, actually that's my next point. It has tons, and I mean like, you know, old school video game, even more than that generally, levels of unlockables and things that you can unlock and find and explore, even post-game and things like that, and that's a huge deal to me, especially in this day and age where, you know, there's this big fucking boner to take out all the stuff that we used to get for free and turn it into DLC. It's really cool to me to have developers that are willing to do that, to give you the shit. You know, I always appreciate that, so it's really cool that they did that. And they're really cool unlockables too. Like, a lot of them aren't just shit tier garbage. They're pretty cool stuff, like you know, new variations on transformations and things like that. Secret characters, you know, that fucking everybody knows who they are. But you know, sweet shit. I really like that. The presentation of the game. This kind of ties into the geek factor a little bit, but the presentation is fucking god tier. Like, it's really well presented, in my opinion. Like, he's always one of those people, Kamiya, I mean, who will write some story that's just like, and this is the thing I really enjoy about games in the past, is that, you know, games could just be games, you know, like, fucking the plot didn't have to be some fucking, like, oh yeah, it needs to be just like movies or books, and it needs to be totally, like, fucking 100% sensical, and it's just like, I mean, you look at fucking shit like Mario, you know, it doesn't make any fucking sense. It's a dude running, there's a fucking fat Italian plumber kicking around turtle shells, hopping on fucking Goombas, whatever the fuck that is. It's just crazy. He's trying to rescue a princess from a fucking spiky-shelled turtle that breathes fire. Like, Mario's fucking insane. And old games, like, so many of them were like that. And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be ones that are, like, you know, trying to be a more serious tone, or, like, you know, trying to have realistic graphics and have everyone look like real humans and some real human drama. That's awesome, too. You want all of that. But this kind of game has been being edged out for a while now. And, yeah, the presentation of it is just really good. What I was going to say is, he has a way of taking a fantastic concept like Mario type shit, you know, that crazy out there where you're just like, what the fuck, and then writing a story for it that, like, kind of makes sense and is actually, like, not only that, but, like, kind of attaches you to it, and it's interesting. It's cool to see what he writes, and that's what he did with this. Like, it's just it's just out there, you know what I mean? It's not, don't expect, like, fucking Shakespearean caliber shit, but, like, it explains what needs to be explained for the game to make sense, and for the game to fucking stand on its own 2 feet as having a story. And the gameplay is fucking awesome, and that's the primary concern, I feel like. And like I said, the presentation is fucking god tier. The prologue, in particular, to me, was really fucking awesome. Like, I really liked the prologue. I mean, I played it, and I was instantly like, holy shit, like, told my brother, you gotta see this, you'll love this. It's really cool prologue, in my opinion. It's just cool. I don't know. I really don't know what else to say. The story, to me, yet again touching on the story is just fun. It's just fun as hell. Like, it's just so silly and wacky, and it just makes me, it reminds me of being a kid. And, you know, just shit just being fun. It just was there to be there, and it was fun. and that's what it is. The story's fucking fun. It's cool. I don't know. It's geeky as shit. I love it. Let's see. The level of detail in the characters and the world and stuff is really cool to me. Like, every wonderful one, which is 100, well, actually more, but has like a large biography, not a large, but like a decent sized bio that, you know, says their name, their weapon's name. You know, you can look at them, you can look at them without their masks on and shit like that. You can listen to all the music, I believe, even the Japanese themes. You can set you can set the dialogue to English or Japanese, which is really cool. And that's what I'm going to add right now, because that's not on here, I don't think. But the English dub, in quotes, of this game is really good. Like, that's what I played it on. For like ultra Japanese purist people, it's really good. Like, the English dub is nice. And you know, he usually, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Kamiya usually does his games in English first anyway. But I don't know. I'm one of those people where if it's a Japanese game, generally I prefer the Japanese dub, especially Japanese RPGs, just because I feel like, you know, I don't know. I just feel like the English, it just sounds so much dumber in English. And this is probably just an insult to you know, myself, or like my own intelligence, or, you know, people who hate JRPGs and say they have horrible stories and stuff are probably fucking laughing right now if you're hearing this. But it's just like, the shit that characters say in JRPGs to me always sounds more like instinctual stuff that you wouldn't really say out loud. And so when you have a bunch of American people like saying it out loud, it just sounds so fucking silly. But when it's, you know, you can't hear it, it's in another language, it just doesn't sound as bad. It, you know, because you can't hear how dumb it sounds. It's just like if you were a Japanese person and you're watching like anime and they're like saying the move name, and so like, you know, like Street Fighter sounds so much cooler when it's just like Tatsumaki Senpukyaku and fucking Shoryuken and Hadouken. You know, in Japan, if you're playing it and the guy's just like, you know, Shockwave Fist, oh, Dragon Punch, meh, you know, and shit like that in anime too. It just would sound retarded to me. I wouldn't like it. So that's just kind of where that comes from, for me at least. Can't speak for everybody. But the English dub is really good. And I prefer it, actually. Let's see. Level variety. The level variety. Yeah, there you go. The level variety is really fucking awesome. There's a lot of different levels. They you know, from like city to snow, fire, all the big ones, you know what I'm saying? Inside of things, and it's got a really cool level variety. I liked it. It was honestly, genuinely saying this, it was a lot bigger game than I thought it would be. Like, I thought it would be shorter than it was, and there would be less levels and variety and such. I think I already touched on this a little bit, but tons of secrets to find and shit to explore. There's just stuff everywhere, you know, like little treasure tracker, hammer spots where you can get files. There's files on like everything, everyone you can collect. Stuff like that. It's just really cool. I dug it. This is a huge one to me. But the New Game Plus is fucking amazing. Like, it's just like if you ever played Bayonetta, it's just like Bayonetta, where it's basically like the hard mode, I guess is what I mean when I say New Game Plus, and then the mode after that. In that, like, it's almost an entirely different game. Like, the first time through is almost just the warm up. If you're not familiar, like in this game and in Bayonetta, what it does is that you beat the game, and then all your shit carries over. So you still have your characters, all their moves, all of that stuff, all your money, all that shit. And they add some new stuff, or you unlock something usually for each time you beat the game on a different difficulty. And then when you start over, you're fighting enemies that, you know, you weren't even. Not only is the game harder, but you're fighting enemies that are from much later in the game earlier. So they just totally throw out the original playthroughs, like spawn points and monsters and shit like that. They change it entirely. They leave the rest of the game the same, but it's almost like a remix or like a director's remix different version of the game where they're like, oh, well, now you have to fight this enemy here. And, like, you're fighting enemies from, the fucking 8th or 6th chapter, like, right at the beginning of the first one. And it's cool. Like, that's just awesome to me. It's so much replayability for that reason. Yeah. So, I really, really dig that. I think that they're fucking, like, Kamiya, at least, is, like, a master of New Game Plus. I wish everyone would do that with their games. I think it would just be amazing. This one's me being a fucking asshole. It feels like a game, and not some shit tier movie is exactly what I put on this notepad. It feels like a game. It's a game. This is a game, like, if I was, and I hate the fucking word gamer, I hate being referred to as a gamer and things like that. I don't ask me why, I just fucking hate it. But, like, this game is, I want to slap myself in the face for saying this, because for lack of better words, this is a gamer's game. This game is made for people who like video games. It's not made for people who want to fucking watch a movie and fucking get to interact with their movie while they watch it. It's a video game. You will be playing it. You will be having fun, hopefully, and you're expected to not suck dick at it. And that's fun. Like I talked about in one of my earlier things, there's a risk and a reward, and if if the risk doesn't meet the rewards, then who cares about the rewards? It's like eventually you're gonna get bored with it. If you're not risking anything to get the reward, then who cares? And this game is like that. You're very rewarded for being good at the game, and that's awesome to me. I really like that. I miss that a lot. In video games right now. I'm very, so not to talk about right now. Not a big fan of the industry right now. Okay. Alright, moving on to cons. I might throw some others in there if I figure any out. Like I said, this one's a little shorter. I couldn't think of as much stuff. This is the only really, really large... Well, I guess I have another one, but this is my biggest complaint with the game. Is that it's kind of like the game is like Bayonetta in that, or Devil May Cry if you're more familiar, in that there's a lot of shit going on. In fact, I'd say there's even more shit going on in this than those games because of how zoomed out it is, how many characters you're fucking running around with 100 to 200 characters at all times. Shit's blowing up, things are doing all the fucking cool immersive elements of people screaming for help and shit blowing up and fighting monsters and shit. And they spawn a lot of monsters and stuff. And the thing is, though, is that unlike in Bayonetta or Devil May Cry, because of the amount of characters you're controlling and how much space they take up on the screen and things like that, it feels kind of cramped at times. And sometimes, like, the camera doesn't really make sense to me. And if you played this game and there's some thing I missed about it, I will feel really fucking dumb because I played a ton of it and I fucked around very extensively with the camera controls. So please tell me if I'm wrong on this, if there's some kind of rhyme or reason at certain points with this. But at times for me, the camera would be zoomed in and I couldn't zoom out, or it would zoom out and I couldn't zoom in. It would zoom in and out. It would zoom out when it should be zoomed in, and it would zoom in when it should have been zoomed out. And it drove me fucking nuts, to be quite honest. Like, as much as I did like the game, that part of it really bugged me. There would be certain parts where I would get really frustrated, and I don't usually get frustrated at games because it's a fucking video game. But it's just when you're being punished for something, not because of your lack of skill, but because of the game not letting you do something that you can normally do in the game's context, such as zoom out, it's very frustrating. So I really didn't like that. It can get really annoying at times. And maybe when you get like God tier at the game, it's not that big of a deal. You can just dodge everything with your fucking slinky dink and bitch slap everything back to fucking Mars. But it was a little frustrating for me first playthrough. This was directly relating to that second one. Too much shit going on. I put. Like I said, there's so much going on, and it wouldn't normally matter if it didn't affect the gameplay, but it kind of does. There's so much shit going on, and you can't the zoom's all fucking buggered out half the time. Not half the time, it's a small percentage, but it's noticeable enough for me to bitch about it. Too much shit going on. There's just a lot of stuff happening at all times, and when you couple that with the thing I was just talking about, it can get frustrating. Sometimes you can't properly attack or dodge enemies' attack patterns because there's so much shit going on. You can't see them glowing, or it zooms in at the wrong time. You don't see them charging up that fucking power fist where they travel halfway across the screen in a fucking fraction of a second. You don't have the time to dodge, or you don't have the knowledge that they're charging that to dodge. And that can, like, at least the first part of that, not the zoom part, but them charging and you not catching it, that can be worked out by playing the game a lot and just getting really, really comfortable and used to it. But it's more cluttered than I would like for, like, it would be nicer if you could get used to it a little faster. And yeah, I said it's like trying to Bayonetta with no camera, and that's what I meant by all that. And this was another thing. This is just kind of a silly one too. Like, this isn't a huge one. Not as big as the last one, but it might just be the Wii U controller, the gamepad. I mean, the gamepad, but blocking and evading feels a little sluggish. It feels like it activates maybe like a split second after you press the button, and not as you press it. And I put this before I actually completed the game, because I write these as I'm playing the game, and it is the gamepad. And it's just me. So I guess it might just be the way I hold it, or, I assume more people are going to have this problem. I don't know. But if you do have this, if you're playing this game and you do have this problem, switch to the Pro Controller. That fixed everything for me. It's not sluggish at all. It was just the gamepad and the way that my fingers fit on it. I wasn't quick enough to hit, like, I was surprised I even tried to play this game with a gamepad anyway, because it's such a fucking, split second kind of game, and I don't fuck around with those kind of games. I love them. But yeah, so that was just kind of like, I wouldn't say it was an empty concern, but it was just a con for me, and that, I wish it would have been a little easier to use the gamepad, because it's kind of a pain switching between the gamepad and the controller, or, switching it on the screen with the minus button so that you can see what's happening on the gamepad, because he actually used the gamepad. That was another pro. He used the gamepad pretty interestingly. Not amazingly, but it was cool, I liked it. Anyway, sorry to get too much with that. The other one is this one, these next two kind of bugged me. And this one actually ties into the next one, okay? But there's enough going on. I felt like there was enough going on gameplay-wise without you having to worry about picking up your teammates and having them knocked out. When you're playing, let's say, if you get hit, if I recall correctly, it will knock you and all your teammates out, and they're all like spinning around like wee wee wee, little birds around their head, and you actually have to go and run around and pick them up, where after a set time, which is a while, in terms of, fast-paced gameplay, it's a while, they'll get up and come back to you. But even if you don't get hit, if they hit your people, they will get knocked out and you'll have to get them back. And that affects your transformations, how big they can be, things like that. To be honest with you, it's not a huge deal, but it is annoying at times. Like, I'm fine with it. It's like, I wouldn't say I'm fine with it. There's just certain times it can get really bothersome, particularly the fucking Prince Vorkin fights, which are also kind of BS. Not really. I'll talk about that in a second, because I'm going to add some. I just remembered a couple things. And this is what ties in with that, is that you can't dodge or block. And I kind of get block, but you can't dodge if you have no people. Like, so if you're just one person, like your little main character guy, or you get, like, if you get your people, what I just said previously, if your people are all knocked off and you don't have, I think it's at least 10 people with you, you can't dodge. Like, there's no way to dodge. And things come at you incredibly fast in this game. And I mean, I'm sure there's other ways to get out of the way, like maybe double jump or something like that. But it's always risky. And it's weird to take a mechanic that you have and then take it away from you at certain times when it's one of those, like, dodging in the games like this is a gut reaction, It's like, you're not going to fucking be paying attention. Like, when everything's exploding around you and you're on the fucking battlefield fighting giant mechanical turtles with fucking 200 people morphed into a hammer, you're not going to be paying attention. Well, I guess you wouldn't be doing that. But you're not going to be paying attention if you have, like, 10 people or 9 people, you know? So, like, if you get fucked and you try and dodge, you're like, oh, cool, I can dodge this. Comes at you, you hit the dodge button, it doesn't go off. That fucking sucks. I don't like that. I think that's kind of a bad gameplay choice on Kamiya's part. And I'm not a big fan of that. Let's see. Yeah, so that was what tied into it. Let's see. I don't know, like, there's certain parts you'll get in fights and you're kind of like, what am I supposed to be doing here? It's not, and I'm not one of those people, like, don't get me wrong, I'd not like, yes, spoon feed me everything, but I think there's certain lengths to which you kind of want to illustrate, like, you know, what you're supposed to be doing a little bit. Like, you don't have to come out and say it, but just give some kind of, like, small hints, you know, just little hints. Doesn't have to be big, and I think that would help. So at times there's that too. Well, one of the cons was there are certain fights in the game that are just, they're the rival fights that's in every fucking Kamiya game, but and that's fine, and I like the character. Prince Vorkin's a badass, but the fights with Vorkin are, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of them. They're like, there's slight patterns in them, but they're just, yeah. I just found them, like, more long and drawn out and boring than anything else. Like, I was glad that there were so few of them. I guess they were a little bothersome, though. I wasn't a big fan of those. They were kind of just, I mean, when someone who's as fucking knowledgeable about games as I have, has been playing them as long as I have, and you play a fight like that, and you're just kind of like, how am I, like, when is the best window to hit this guy? And, you know, you spend a good 4 or 5 minutes trying to figure that out. That's not good, in my opinion. So maybe I'm just a fucking idiot, and, you know, everybody else figured it out in 2 seconds, but I don't feel that way. So yeah, that was another con. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay. Well, this is kind of, I don't know if this is a pro or not, but I liked it. But the references, like, usually Kamiya will do little references in his gameplay, or I don't want to say usually, but lately in Bayonetta he did the Space Harrier and the Afterburner on the motorcycle segments. You know, he'll do little segments that are kind of little. Basically, in Bayonetta, there's motorcycle and there's the flying on the missile part, and you know, these parts are usually, or at least in Bayonetta, they were weaker than the rest of the game. They weren't something that was like, I didn't hate them, but I still, like, if Kamiya would have sat me down and been like, do you want more of Bayonetta gameplay with the gameplay that we finally tuned, or do you want these? I would have said, you know, give me more of Bayonetta. And in this game, actually, there's a lot of gameplay references, tons, and they're good. Like, they are fitting, and they don't feel like kind of tacked on or second hand. They're really good, and I really liked it, and I thought that it was really cool. The referencing he did. It's a little, like, difficult. Some of them are a little difficult the first time because you're like, holy shit. But I really liked all the changes in gameplay, not just the references. This should lead me to this, because this is more important than, like, oh, we did cool references I like. But there was a lot of little changes and parts where the gameplay kind of changed up, and this is it was done well. There were fun changes in the gameplay, and, you know, there are parts that logically make sense to change the type of gameplay that they had, and it was cool. I liked what they did. It's really cool. The boss fights were really fucking grand in scale, and everything was really epic in its own way. And I hate that word; it's so overused, but it was really cool. So yeah, the next one is that all weapons in this game only have one same set of moves. And what I mean by that is, like, if you get the fist, it has the stinger, the rotation, the rising, and I think that's it. And then you get the gun, it has the exact same ones. You get the sword, it has the exact same ones. All the weapons in it, except for one, which, well, and actually it does have them, it just doesn't tell you have them, have the same set of moves. So there's really no variety in terms of that. Like, the there's no variety as far as like the hammer having unique moves that only a hammer could do, or claws having unique moves that only claws could do, which I think would have added a lot more to the game and been more interesting in combat and just in general. Like, you know, it's always fun not to guess, to not be able to guess what you're going to get or how it's going to be used and things like that. But in this game, like I said, you find out very quickly that every weapon's going to have the same moves, and it's kind of like, okay, and none of them really affect much. So it's kind of, I don't know, I don't like it. And they do, don't get me wrong, they do have slight variations to their moves. So like they'll be the exact same move, but there will be like a little bit of a variation on it. Like for example, the rising with the pistol, like you'll like kind of upwards pistol whip them up into the air and then fire off a big barrage of shots when you press the button. Or for the claws, when you do the rising, your guy will hang in air and sit there and just keep attacking them like a buzzsaw. So there is some variety. So this one is kind of a big one, but it felt kind of like Bayonetta Light in that it carries over so many things, so many gameplay features and ideas and philosophies that almost exactly as they are in Bayonetta, and you'd think that'd be really good, but it actually isn't as good as you think, to me. Even as much, like, because I fucking love Bayonetta is one of like the only 2 games I think people should have played last generation. Like, so that's pretty high praise for that game for me. But and I'm saying, like, you know, maybe you shouldn't have taken everything from it or whatever. It would have been, I think it would have been smarter to make like new. I understand that it's kind of plays like Bayonetta in a way, in its own kind of action-y way, but I think it would have been nicer to make more like new gameplay for this particular game and branch out a little more in terms of like, it felt like, I mean, and there was some new stuff, don't get me wrong, but it feels like it would be smarter as a developer and as a person to grow, to kind of try and hamstring yourself in that area and make something entirely new from this game, so that whatever you liked from this game you could apply to your next game too. You know, you don't want to just keep relying on what you've done before. So that, it kind of had that going against it for me. I really enjoyed Wonderful 101. This has been like, this is my breakdown of it. Is I really thought it was good. I don't think it was as good for me personally as Bayonetta, because Bayonetta was just like, dude, Bayonetta was amazing to me. And this is a good game though. You know, I really liked it. I didn't expect it to be as good as Bayonetta. I don't expect that. I don't get hyped for shit anymore. And if, you know, I don't know. I didn't expect it to be as good as Bayonetta. I honestly didn't expect it to be as... I didn't really expect much from it. And not because I didn't think it was going to be good, but just because I don't like to get myself hyped up for things. And I turned out... I really liked it. It was a really cool little game. I'm really excited about, you know, whatever they work on in the future. I like Platinum Games a lot. I'm starting to sound a little biased, because I am, because they're the shit, to me. But yeah, like I feel like it was overall I enjoyed it. It had some bad things about it, but yeah, that's my breakdown of the Wonderful 101. Thanks for watching.